30 years ago today, the Central Coast was struck by a 6.9 magnitude earthquake.
It's one of the scariest days of my life, going through that earthquake.
Much of the destruction here overshadowed by the destruction in the Bay Area.
It really was a disaster area.
Well, I think it's fair to say it will happen again.
We take a look at Loma Prieta then and now. And good morning. It's Thursday, October 17, 2019. I'm Zach Fuentes.
And I'm Mary Coleman. Thank you for joining us on Wake Up. Today marks 3 decades since that devastating Loma Prieta earthquake struck right here on the Central Coast.
Take a look here. While the destruction was widespread all across California, the epicenter was located along the San Andreas Fault in the Santa Cruz Mountains. It struck at 5:04 p.m. in 1989, just 18 kilometers beneath the Earth's surface. The strong shaking lasted less than 15 seconds.
That's right. The disaster killed 68 people, multiple here in Santa Cruz County, and injured approximately 3,800. It caused an estimated $7.4 billion in direct damage. And several Central Coast residents will never forget those days after Loma Prieta.
And today only serves as a reminder that another large earthquake could come any day. We have special coverage this morning. KION's Alicia Machado is in downtown Santa Cruz, where much of the destruction happened. But we want to go to Victor Guzman live just miles away from the epicenter this morning. Victor.
Good morning, Mary and Zach. And just up the road is that epicenter here at the Forest of Nisene Mark State Park. Now, it's around this time each year that some people will take miles-long hikes over to the epicenter where that Loma Prieta earthquake began to ripple out through Santa Cruz County to Monterey County and up to the Bay Area and cause much destruction. That's when all of that destruction, though, that you'll see on your screen now, that's when all of it began to unfold. Homes left unbolted to their foundations were badly damaged. Buildings became flattened or left tons of debris which spewed out, injuring many people. Some injuries were fatal. And in all this fear and devastation, confusion, as family members out of state were unable to call in and find out if their loved ones were okay.
My parents and family who live in the San Joaquin Valley see the news, 2 people killed in Santa Cruz downtown, an earthquake. They had no idea if it was me or not for a week.
Everything was so horrible and scarce and crazy, and you couldn't get anywhere.
And both of the individuals you just heard from had businesses that took enough damage during the quake, which forced them to relocate, whether it was Santa Cruz or Watsonville. And for some businesses, they weren't able to survive after the quake. Now, steps have been taken to make sure that businesses downtown and anywhere else are more sound when it comes to taking the force of an earthquake. I'll have details on that coming up in the next half hour. Mary, Zach.
Victor, thank you, and make sure you tune in tonight for Victor's special report on the Loma Prieta earthquake. It's called Loma Prieta Then and Now. That airs tonight at 5 and 11 p.m. here on KION News Channel 546, or head to our live stream at KION546.com.
And today, a special ceremony will be held to remember the lives lost in Santa Cruz County. A 15-second moment of silence at the downtown library on Church Street in Santa Cruz will be held, and it's part of a larger anniversary event that starts at 4:45 and goes until 6:15. They're unveiling a project about the history of Loma Prieta and panel with local emergency responders. And an exhibit focusing on the aftermath of the earthquake is now open in the Santa Cruz Museum of Art and History. It's put on by a group called On Site, and the artists are locals who worked to rebuild downtown after that Loma Prieta earthquake. It's on the 2nd floor and runs until August of 2021. And the damage in downtown Santa Cruz was heavily overshadowed by the Bay Area destruction, but it still had major impacts here on the Central Coast. KION's Alicia Machado tells us the story of one man whose business was lost that day.
After the earthquake, one shop owner tells me this area here in downtown Santa Cruz looked like a war zone. But now, 30 years later, a much different scene as people remember Loma Prieta and how far they've come.
It looked like a bombing run from a World War II picture. Buildings were just totally devastated. It just didn't seem real. It looked like a movie set.
Santa Cruz business owner Joe Ferrara recounts the destruction of 1989. The infamous Loma Prieta earthquake rocked his downtown comic book shop, Atlantis Fantasy World, and this was a famous spot. His original store was featured in the 1980s film, The Lost Boys. But Loma Prieta destroyed that history. He was forced to move out because the building was too unstable and no longer safe. Ferrara shared these pictures, his and more than 40 other businesses operating out of tents. Anything to keep running through the hardship.
Some people were maxed out on their credit cards, and when it came time to move out of the tents, there was no money for them to do that, and they went out of business.
But others made a comeback with the help of neighbors. The community support for local businesses after the tragedy was astounding to Ferrara and other owners. Zoccoli's Deli was right in the center of it all.
The community spirit was definitely there. People were supporting downtown.
The first Christmas, there were busloads of people who came to support the downtown to give us a Christmas season. Literally, people came from all over.
After leaving the tents, Ferrara moved into this shop on Cedar Street, where they've been providing people with a fantasy world to enjoy for the past 27 years.
I've always said I would never say that the earthquake was a good thing, but out of devastation came the phoenix that rose again, and you look at what the downtown is now.
Ferrara tells me part of the funding used to construct this building came from an earthquake relief fund. Reporting for Wake Up, Alicia Machado, KIOA News Channel 546.
And our special coverage of the Loma Prieta earthquake continues online, so visit us at KION546.com for a lot more.